What is up, you guys? Marty McFly coming at you, bringing you guys the merch. A belated happy Halloween and a blessed Samhain to everyone. I know this video came up a little bit later than I would have wanted, but our trip to Salem, we really did want to just enjoy everything that it had to offer. I was actually in Salem on Halloween during this season, and what a wonderful trip. So my video did not come out in time for the Halloween celebration or the festival of Samhain, but in this case, I think you'll allow me a little bit of brevity here because what a wonderful experience, what a wonderful trip itself. Really could not have asked for much more than what we got from this experience. And I've been wanting to go to Salem for a long time. This is something that's been in the years of the making, but things just never really panned out where I wanted to go during the Halloween season, and things just didn't work out for whatever reason. But I finally got to go, and it was worth every second, every dollar that I could have gotten out of it. Originally, the trip was going to be a trip through Boston to Portland, then downward to Salem. We actually neglected to do the Portland because we want to spend a little bit more days in Maine on our next trip, so we'll be planning that for next year. But part of Salem, other than just the touristy, witchy, Halloween-y sense of, I guess you could say just what most people think of when they think of Salem in the modern sense, but I also wanted to get a little bit of a deeper dive into Americana, arguably one of our saddest moments of American history, not including all the other thousands of things that have happened in American history that are also equally as sad, or actually more sad and more detrimental. But I would say this is a part of American history that I think we wanted a little bit more information on, and we wanted to do a deeper dive into not just the touristy side of things of what we hear, what we've read, what we've seen in literature and movies, and the over-dramatized, but I wanted to hear it from someone else in a non-dramatic, non-horror movie fashion, just as someone to tell us what they think or what is believed to have really gone on. And I mean, there's books, there's so many things out there that give their own explanations, and really, do we know everything? No. But it was interesting from even a medical perspective to see what exactly were we doing, why did these things happen, why did they happen, and why is this so much more popular than, why is this so much more well-known, I guess you could say, than, the European version, which the European witch trials were arguably worse because they killed thousands to tens of thousands in other horrible, horrible ways. Now, going through the Salem witch trials, it was my understanding that all of our victims were hung, and that is true in this case. As far as the water torture, burning at the stake, and this dismemberment, and the Iron Maidens, and all these things, that was largely on the European scale, but it was a great learning experience to really understand at least what our modern understanding or misunderstanding of the Salem witch trials was. And a big part of that, as well as history, is also to pay respects to fellow Americans who were just looking for a better way of life and unfortunately found themselves dead, whether it's religious or political, And it really was a solemn and hollowed experience. And I'm glad I got to do some more private tours with people that were not necessarily on the big, ghost tour versions, the horror movie versions. But I would say it was a wonderful learning experience, as well as an opportunity to, pay respects to the dead in this case as well. I would say the trip was so worth it. We took actually 3.5 days into our Salem trip, and I'm glad we did. We postponed our trip to Portland, Maine, and in this case, we spent an extra day in Salem and really took an opportunity to just walk and experience and not be in a rush, not do the overly touristy things all at once, and really just walk along the streets and try to get a grasp and a feel of the town itself. And there's so much more to Salem that has to offer than just the witch trial museums and all of those things. So without further ado, I invite you to join me on this journey. These are going to be a lot of videos. Some of them are going to be with music in the background to kind of get you through it, but I would say there's a couple of them that I purposefully left out music, so that way you could just get a sense of the feel, the stillness of Salem, Massachusetts, when there's not a lot of people around, when you're just walking along the cobblestone streets, and just feel what we felt. So I hope you guys have a wonderful experience on this trip with me. Again, happy Halloween and blessed Samhain.
get to see what you're looking for. But keep in mind, be careful with what you wish for.
I'll take a picture within the video. Yum, yum, yums. Oh, that's cool. It actually goes up and down.
Yeah. Maybe a little Alice in Wonderland action.
Ah. Welcome back, guys. So, I hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of the trip. Now, if you noticed, I take you on a journey with me, but there's a lot of moments that I take you on that aren't just the touristy witch attractions. I think those are things you should do on your own and really get a sense and lock yourself in. Put away your cell phones, because that's what I did. There's a lot of things you can't even use your cell phones for, and I think that's a good thing. I think you should go there and experience them yourself, whether it's the Dungeon Museum or the Witch Museum, or the myriad of things that we went to on this trip. Starting from the beginning, our trip, we landed in Boston. We went to Buttermilk and Bourbon, which was a phenomenal restaurant. It was a really great take on Southern cooking, but kind of their own twist on things. Wonderful mixed drinks if you're into that. I wish I could remember the names of some of the ones that we tried, but the most common one I think of was the Angel's Smash, which is basically Angel's Envy. They've done this drink in a couple different ways. First time I ever tried this was at the Breakers over in Palm Beach, Florida, but they had their own version of like the Angel's Smash. Angel's Wings, I think it may have been called Angel's Wing Smash, something like that. Phenomenal drink. But a lot of the other cocktails they had were also fantastic. But I think the best way to do Buttermilk and Bourbon is you get 4 or 5 things and you try them, you split them among your group, because one thing, whatever. The barbecue shrimp, I would say, is not the idyllic, what we think of New Orleans style barbecue shrimp, where it's got like the compound butter with the pepper and all that. It had a little bit of that, but this was heavy focus on like the veggies and the peppers and all this stuff. When I've had barbecue shrimp, there's nothing else in it. It's just shrimp, you peel, you dip, you get a little bit of bread for dipping. That's how it was. Now, make sure you get the honey biscuits. They're phenomenal. That's what they're known for. The fried chicken's fantastic. The ribs were excellent. I would say the barbecue shrimp I actually put towards the bottom because it's not what I think of. When I think of New Orleans, Louisiana style barbecue shrimp, I think of like Deanie's down in NOLA. So I would say if you're kind of like going through the list, what do you really like? I would say the biscuits you gotta get the fried chicken. The ribs are fantastic, and then if you like the barbecue shrimp with a bunch of extra like veggies and stuff and peppers, then I'd say that's perfectly fine. But I would say that was probably the bottom of my least favorite. Spent in Boston for our first day. I always have a ritual when I go to Boston, so I got to go to the Black Rose for a Guinness. I got to go to Emmett's for a Guinness, their clam chowder, and their Irish coffee, which they kind of self-proclaim best Irish coffee in Boston. They even have like a thing up there now in the newspaper. And then the Dubliner for Guinness as well. Their food is fantastic as well. but I love Irish pubs. I love Guinness, so I always have to try each one out. But I would say Dubliner is fantastic, a great pint. So is Emmett's, and then the Black Rose, I would say, has more of like a louder Irish pub feel than what I saw in Dublin. I would say theirs is a little bit more what I would expect with like live music and then just pints all around, craziness. Dubliner, you can kind of push yourself back a little bit. You can be, a little bit more, I would say less. They do have live music and stuff, and they can make it loud, but you can also have areas to just be by yourself. And then Emmett's is just a very tight-knit pub with great food, great Guinness, great Irish coffee, and everyone in there was Irish. Most of the workers in there were from Dublin, and it really does feel authentic when you go in there, which is probably why if you don't get a reservation now, which was not the problem before, but if you don't get a reservation in the evenings now, you're not going to get a seat. If you go for lunch, you shouldn't have any issue. I had no issues going for the lunchtime. So that was our first day. The next day, we have finally made it to Salem. I would say the very first thing we did, actually, was to go to the Salem Witch Museum. Now, I noticed there's a lot of things online that talk about the Salem Witch Museum, and did they enjoy it, did they not enjoy it? And it seems like overabundantly people would say they did it, but they say some things are better. I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed the Salem Witch Museum for what it was, but I like the fact that they kind of put you into this dark room where you can't see anything, and then there's over-dramatic, dark horror movie set piece, and it felt like the set piece for a Robert Eggers movie. If you think of like the Witch, if you will, this kind of felt like a Robert Eggers horror movie. And I would say the dramatized version's kind of cool. Like, I like the way they did it, but it really makes you feel more like panic. Maybe a little bit more of like what was going on at that time, why was everyone panicking, and now you feel like you're in the panic yourself. But this is a little bit more over-dramatized horror movie. There's stills of everything, basically of these like models of each scene, and they would heighten their lights over it. And of course, in the dark corner is basically Baphomet. Hell yeah. But basically, they put the devil in the corner. It kind of looks like Baphomet, and that was their semblance for the devil, and how this was supposed to be responsible for everything. But I would say it's a great trip also down history. I think they actually kind of did a great job with that. They really engage you. They seclude you in this big dark room. The props were great. The soundtrack was fantastic. And then the Witch Museum, the history in the back, once you're actually done with the dramatic part of it, we had an English lady come out and really give us like her, just basically like, how far does witchery go? And then tapering it all the way through modern day, and then going to Harry Potter. There's like a first press copy of Harry Potter, and then it's signed by J.K. Rowling, and modern movies and books and things like that. It was pretty cool just to get a different perspective on those things. I genuinely enjoyed it. I think some people are maybe overly critical, or maybe people need constant stimulation because we have a cell phone in our pocket 24/7, but I would say I enjoyed it. I don't need constant stimulation to be happy. I just want to be involved, and I want to be taken away from the glamour and the pops and the stimulation of modern, I guess you could say, just modern postmodern society. And I like being locked away and just being made to feel, and that is what I enjoy more than anything else. So when I go travel, I don't need constant stimulation. You're not going to shove me up in Piccadilly Circus or take me up to the London Eye if I'm, when I'm going to go there. I want to walk and I want to be involved. In this case, I felt very involved, and that's why I genuinely enjoyed it. So if you're nervous about doing it, I say just try it. If you're a person who needs constant stimulation, maybe you won't enjoy it, but me and my girlfriend both enjoyed the experience quite a bit. So on that same event, we actually went over to Havid, and you got to get Pinocchios pizza. Their pizza's phenomenal. Get the Sicilian slice. Just do it. I had 2. I could have eaten 4 more. I mean, they're big, and I was full, but I wanted it because it tasted so darn good. Pinocchio's Pizza in Harvard, and then just down the street in the Harvard area, Cambridge, is one of the greatest punk rock, hardcore metal stores on the planet, and that, of course, is Armageddon Shop. My favorite punk, next to Tiger Records, one of my favorite punk rock and metal stores on the planet. And the reason I say that is because they have every generation of punk, hardcore, even if you're thinking about like the early screamo violent stuff and the DC scene, they have everything, and they have great metal selection. They have a really bizarre, unique black metal section of bands that I've never heard of, and then their CD selection's phenomenal. Tapes, cassettes, posters. Their t-shirts are $10, so of course I bought one. I even got the guy was like, "Hey, look, take as many stickers as you want." This guy 3D prints coasters. You can have anything. So the guy really took care of me. Ben, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you, brother. And phenomenal coaster. So obviously we picked up some stuff in there. That's on my previous video if you want to check that out. I got some records from there. But if you're really into like early punk and hardcore, if you really like some of the 90s emo, screamo, violent stuff, I mean, they got everything, man. So definitely check them out. Great vinyl sticker as well I got from the Witch store. And coming on from that, we also did a ghost tour, because I love ghost tours in different cities, because I think they give a better history lesson than the day tours. And I always learned something unique, kind of wild, bizarre, and on the darker realm. I would say our ghost tour, it wasn't scary by any means. I would say the majority of like the spirits that they talk about are very benevolent, and they just kind of hang out and chill. They do scare the guests on occasion, and honestly, that just made me want to go into one of these haunted Airbnbs even more and more, especially the Salem house, which was like the one that they talk about the most. Very expensive. It's usually booked up way in advance, so you really got to get on it if you want to do this. You got to do this like a year in advance if you want to get a decent rate in a decent room. Great storytelling. It was really great going through the graveyards and just learning about little pockets of history and different parts of Salem that are unmarked. And I think that's what I really wanted to get out of this trip, was where are the unmarked parts of Salem that nobody talks about, and that's what I enjoyed. We also went to the Witch Dungeon Museum, which I think was fantastic. It's immersive. There's a walkthrough experience. They have a great cast doing real life drama. So you have a mixture of the models and the set pieces along with the actors and actresses. And the actresses that did ours did a phenomenal job. We really had a great experience with them. And I can see why people like the Witch Dungeon Museum. It's immersive. You walk through it. You feel cramped, dark, cold, musty. You feel panic that they feel. And you also feel the doom and gloom that these people probably felt when they knew they were either locked away for life or dead. And that is really where I think this place shines. The live actresses, there's no soundtrack. It's cold. It's dark. It's sad. You do get the reverence and the feeling of the tragedy of what happened to these people. Great live acting, though, and I feel like it gives you a feeling of how tight you feel and how locked in these people were and how horrible their conditions must have been. And when you go down in the basement, it's cold, it's dark, it's spooky, there's not a lot of light. You feel it down to your bones, and I think that made it feel so much more real. What a wonderful experience. The shops on Main Street, there's so many of them. Pick and choose. I mean, if you want touristy stuff, we bought touristy stuff because we wanted a Salem shirt and, a jacket and all that stuff. And there's plenty of that. And there's plenty of that stuff that's decently priced. You just got to go to the right shops. Some of them are more expensive than others. But I would say if you go to the right one, you can do really well. And I would say the most affordable Salem witchy stuff that we found was actually away from it. And you need to go to the wharf. So if you go anywhere like near the Derby Wharf or the Wharf District where Finz is, those shops were my favorite shops of the whole trip, and that stuff is very affordable. I thought they did a fantastic job with that. I would say one of the best parts of Salem was just meandering the streets, not holding anything in my hands, not taking pictures, not taking videos, and just like being there, just being. Like that's it. Maybe that's where I defer than most people, but this experience for me was about feeling it, and that's what I got out of this trip. I mean, for lack of a better word, Salem vibes are just something else under their own. They remind me a lot of going down the hollowed streets of St. Augustine or Savannah, and then this is just that much more magnified. And I liked it when it was calmer and there's less people, and ironically, this ended up being Salem's lightest Halloween season, and we don't know why. It rained for like 2 days, but light rain. We didn't even get wet. And it really didn't bother me. It was cold. I mean, yeah, it was like 40s and 50s. It was gorgeous. Like, we actually wore heavy, like multiple layers on our last 2 days because it was down in the 30s and 40s. And I loved it even more. That made me want to stay outside even longer. So we had a wonderful weather. as far as what we wanted out of this trip. And ironically, it was just their lowest season for people. I don't know if it's because the country's struggling, government is shut down, because everyone in government apparently hates Americans now. I don't care what side you're on. It just seems like, I don't know, every time Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage says don't trust the government, I'm starting to understand more and more what he means. Doesn't matter what side you're on, they really just don't care about us at the end of the day. And that felt the same way down there in Salem. But, you know, I really loved going down there. Between the clean air, the trees, the sweet grass that you smell when you go up towards the northern states, crunchy leaves, cobblestones, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, the beautiful autumn foliage, the quaking aspens, the live oak trees, the maples, everything was just spot on. And I think, if I'm not, my apologies, I'm not very good at knowing all of the trees, but there's this particular tree. We have them here in northern Florida. We have them in Georgia. They're there in Salem. But when the wind blows, these leaves clatter so loud it sounds like rain. And I want to say this is a live oak tree, but when the leaves start getting a little bit less green and they're a little bit more crunchy, and they're tiny little thin leaves that kind of look like this, haha, look at that. They kind of look like that shape, but when they quake, when they're loud, it sounds like rain. And I could have listened to those leaves for hours. But I would say there's a stillness there that I don't see in most tourist destinations. And between that, the foliage, and then finally making it to where the people were hung and making it to the site, which doesn't look like much from the side of the road because it's surrounded by a couple of houses, there's some trash cans. When you finally make it, there is a feeling, there is a stillness there that you don't get anywhere else. And we paid our respects. I left my 2 coins there. I know there's like an old tradition. I don't know if you guys still practice that, but like, you know, you leave 2 coins so that they can cross the river Styx. Granted, these people have been dead for hundreds of years, but for us, it was leaving just something, just paying respects to our fallen. And, you know, me and my girlfriend are a little bit more spiritual about that kinds of stuff, but people leave flowers, they leave notes just for these people that had passed away during this horrible time in Americana history. As far as the wharf, now you have the Derby Wharf, you have the Great Lighthouse. Go to the lighthouse, it's worth the trip. I mean, granted, it was cold and raining and windy, but we took a bunch of pictures, and it was nice to just sit there in the bay, in the wharf, and then just, you know, sit there by the water, listen to the seagulls coming by. Now, we went to Finz, and I would say that was probably my best food experience in Salem. If you're going to go get food and you want seafood, you want good food in general, Finz is more expensive, but the portion sizes are massive. That was the biggest lobster roll I've ever had in my life. Way better than the lobster shanty. I know lobster shanty is kind of famous for being blah, 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 and they make jokes about poor service, but I mean, I would say their food was not good on this time. I would probably not go to lobster shanty again. I don't think it was worth my money. I would have rather gone to Finz twice and grabbed a full lobster. I got the smaller lobster. Tail meat was great, but the claw meat was completely absent. And then clam chowder had no clams in it, and it was really watery. So it was just not a great experience. So I would say if you're going to avoid a place, avoid the lobster shanty. Some people do it because it's touristy, but you know, I had some friends that they said they had good meals there in the past, and at this point, it was not good. So I wouldn't go to the lobster shanty again. The clam chowder sucked, and the lobster meat was like null and void. My girlfriend said she enjoyed the chili. She said that was the best thing on there, so that shows you anything. But Finz portion sizes are massive. Best value for the buck. It's a little bit more expensive, worth every penny. We got the big orchard salad. We got the large lobster roll with butter because I hate mayonnaise. I don't like the Connecticut rolls with the New England rolls with the mayo in it. I like the Connecticut with the butter. We also got their clam chowder bowl, which is phenomenal, and I think my girlfriend got something else as well. And that was more than enough to feed all of us. We had so much left over. So for, I don't know, it was like $120 with a couple cocktails and all that stuff. There was more than enough food for the two of us, and we tipped him well. The guy took good care of us. We had a phenomenal experience. So if you're going to go for seafood, I'd say go to Finz. Or you're going to go to Turner's. Now, Turner's, great clams. I love whole belly clams. That's where I went. So whole belly clams, great drinks, great clam chowder. Expensive because it's kind of in the city area, but I'd say for the price, it was well worth it. If you're going to go to 2 seafood places down there, there's more to offer, but these were my 2 favorite that we had. Turner's and Finz were well worth the visit and the money. Now for shops, one of my favorite shops is actually right down the street, and we went there at night, and walking along these streets at night in the Wharf District was amazing. We went to Partridge in a Pear Tree, great Halloween decorations. They had great shirts, they had sweaters, the Christmas and Halloween villages were amazing. Great shop for knickknacks. Just down the street from there is the Coven. Great shop for kind of like dark horror movie, heavy metal stuff. A lot of XXL shirts, so you can know it's going to be a great shirt store for horror movies. And I mean, shoot, I'm usually a medium or large, but a lot of XXL, so you can already tell like their clientele is going to be big into horror movies, big into heavy metal. They had some great herbal stuff, a lot of great books, and that's actually where I got my beanie. It just says Haunted on it. It's one of my favorite beanies now that I own. Down the street from there, I would say the Cauldron Black was probably one of my favorite, not too far from that area, but the Cauldron Black was one of my favorite apothecary, witchcraft, spiritual stores. If you're going to go for herbals, stones, if you want to get a reading, get your palms read, go for anything, I would say the Cauldron Black was just a great place to get started. Great incense. We actually bought a 3-day kit because I'm about to start my new, basically like a very long stretch of work where I don't get a lot of breaks, and I think we wanted to start off on the right foot. So we actually bought a 3-day candle kit. Comes with its own oil, incense, you burn for 3 days, and then you kind of have your meditation around it. So we've always wanted to try something like that, and even being Catholic, I'm sure it'll scare the living hell out of my mother. But it's something that I enjoy learning new things, and Christ is king, but I also enjoy learning what the other side of life looks like. It's not really paganism or Satanism, it's just meditation, and I'm excited to see what it does, and I'm excited to see, does this give me a new perspective on my week? Does it help me get through the work week? Just having something else to kind of lean into. So Cauldron Black, the Coven, great shops. Now the Coven's Cottage, I'd say, was the most authentic feeling store. It is wrought so heavily with herbs and incense and burning and candles. It's so warm in there, and everyone in there is really like in their zone for what that store brings. But I felt that store felt the most real. Lots of herbs, a lot of books, a lot of people to help. It does smell wonderful. Our bags still smell like the store. There's a lot of spells, books on spell binding and things like that. Well worth the trip. And I would say as far as Irish pubs go, Dubliner, Emmett's, Black Rose, but if you go into Salem, you have O'Neill's, which is a great Irish pub, great pints, great Halloween shirts. And I really wish I had bought one of those shirts, but we were so shirted out. I had already bought like 3 shirts from other stores. Legal seafood is good. It's super expensive for what you get, but I would say the quality of the food is good. It's just very expensive if you're willing to spend the money. I would say pass on Carrie Nation in Boston. It was just meh. The food was not very good at all. It's supposed to be, prohibition style with drinks and stuff, but their food was just not good at all. And then last but not least, coffee. So everyone talks about coffee, right? Coffee's all over Salem. I would say some of the other places that everyone says to go to were kind of like overrated. Honestly, there was one, I can't even remember the name of it. It's just off a side street that no one even talks about, and I thought the coffee was better than anyone else. But we did go to Blackcraft, and it's very touristy, but you gotta go once. It's very heavy metal, it's very industrial, it's very paganistic, very satanistic. There's Baphomet everywhere. It's fun, it's expensive. I mean, it's like $7 for a latte, but the Autumn Harvest latte that I had, that didn't just taste like PSL, because let's be honest, the PSL from Starbucks tastes like garbage. It's fun, it's expensive, but their Pumpkin Harvest latte, which I need caffeine. I want it to feel like, I want to feel like someone's giving me electricity when I'm drinking my coffee, so it gave me a nice jolt. It's just a wild store. I did buy 2 bags of coffee because I enjoy their coffee. I bought the Cradle of Filth one in the past, which I didn't really care for because it's heavy on the black licorice, and I abhor black licorice. But I would say the coffee itself, if you just want a black coffee, their coffee selections are fantastic. They used to have a collab with The Ghost Inside, but unfortunately they sold out of that one. But stickers, shirts, memorabilia, they got everything that you could possibly want to fuel your Satanistic soul at Blackcraft Coffee. But it's well worth the visit. Make sure you get a reservation, because if you don't get a reservation, You might get to wait in line if other people cancel, which is essentially what we did. We got in at 105 and there's a couple cancellations, so they let us in. But that's not all the time. If you're going to go to Blackcraft Coffee, if you're going to go to Finz, if you're going to go to the Witch Dungeon Museum and the Salem Witch Museum, make sure you get reservations. This was the quietest Halloween that they had had in years, so we got very, very lucky. But overall, it was a wonderful trip. I would do it again. Can't wait till I can do it again. But you know what? Before I let you all go, let's talk about Proctor's Ledge. And that was the very last thing we did in Salem before we called our Uber and ended up with some serial killer driver, terrifying guy that smelled like cat piss. And Proctor's Ledge, it's a mile outside of Salem. We actually walked from Essex and then just walked all the way down till we eventually landed at Proctor's Ledge. And that was the most solemn, quietest, non-touristy experience of the whole trip. I don't even think a lot of people, when they're coming to Salem for the first time, even bother to go or even realize it's there. There was no one there. And granted, you gotta walk a little bit of the way, so maybe you take your car, you take whatever, you stop by, you take a photo. We walked, and it was well worth the experience. Going to Proctor's Ledge, seeing all the names, and then you can actually walk behind the hill, like basically Gallows Hill, and kind of look down and see if this is potentially where they're saying all the hangings and the tragedies occurred. Well, if that's the case, then we did it, and we left 2 coins on so they can cross the river Styx and all that, but that was the most solemn, hollowed experience. It was quiet. All you could hear is the trees and the wind, and that, I think, was an opportunity for us to pay our respects and to say, hey, you know, this is a part of Americana, but it's a horrible thing that happened to some innocent people. And we're glad we did it to at least say we went and pay our respects. So overall, it was a fantastic trip. It gave me everything I needed and everything I wanted to do. It's getting a little more political, I guess you could say. We're all people. We're all Americans. We all share the same blood together. So that's enough for me for that. I would say the scariest part of the whole trip, and we did have a wonderful experience, the scariest part of the whole trip is the Essex County Mall bathroom. And it's very true. My girlfriend went there with a mistake, and I tried to pull her out, and it did not work out in her favor, but the bathrooms smell like piss and shit. People have died in those bathrooms. People have been murdered in those bathrooms. People shoot up IV drugs in those bathrooms. They smoke weed. They do whatever. But there's a lot of bad things that happen in those bathrooms. One lady said that she saw blood, so I'm like, excellent, great bathroom. Don't go in there. Just save yourself time, energy, and money. And you really don't need to go in the mall. There's a couple cool shops in there that you can kind of filter through. You know, as far as like monster memorabilia, Halloween stuff, there's a couple vinyl records in there. But I would say just kind of avoid the bathrooms if you can. As far as record stores though, Armageddon and Residency Records, great record shop in Salem, Massachusetts. And make sure you go in there. Their vinyl metal selection is amazing. They have cassettes, CDs. All their metal was new. I didn't really see much used, but their new stuff as far as like Paradise Lost goes, obscure black metal. Paradise Lost had its own section, which I've never seen in a record store before. Phenomenal choices. Beer's everywhere. One of my favorite breweries that we went to was East Regiment Beer Company. The guys in there are great. Everyone in there was super nice. Their IPA was fantastic. We ended up just doing a couple flights, and the beer was amazing. So that about covers it. Like I said, scariest part's the bathroom, but we had a wonderful experience. It really was a great trip for us to just experience it and feel it on our own. So I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are taking care of each other. And peace.